like your debit card, your credit card, and all these other documents and how everything works based off insurance coverage, all right? So I'm going to show you some things, and we're going to go through some things, and just pay close attention to, a lot of the stuff that we're about to read over. It's going to be very clear and concise. As y'all know, every time I bring something, I always make sure that I bring you good information, resourceful information. So let's get into this. All right, so we're dealing with definitions, and it's linked to an amendment published in 87 FR 4470, right? And it give you the date and everything. So the act is the Federal Depository Insurance Act, and it talks about corporations, and it means a federal deposit insurance corporation. And then default has the same meaning as provided, and then they give you this section, right? So we're gonna go look at default because you want to know what default is, right? So I want to show you. So when we read it, you can understand what's being said. So definitions relating to default. The term default means with respect to an insured depository institution, an adjudication or other official determination by any court of competent jurisdiction. So it has to be a competent court, federal court, the appropriate federal banking agency or other public authority pursuant to which a conservator, receiver, or other legal custodian is appointed for an insured depository institution, or in the case of a foreign bank having an insured branch for such branch. So basically it's talking about when an insured bank fails to do something that it's appointed to do for another insured institution in which it's holding something for that institution and it has an obligation. So it's talking about when the bank fails. So you get that. Let's go back. All right, so the deposit has the same meaning as provided. And so we're gonna go read what deposit is, because you got all these things we can't move forward until you understand what this stuff is, and then everything will start really making sense to you. It all come together. So a deposit, the term deposit is an unpaid balance of money or its equivalent received or held by a bank or savings association in the usual course of business and for which it has given or is obligated to give credit, either conditionally or unconditionally, to a commercial, checking, savings, time, or drift account, or which is evidenced by a certificate of deposit or a drift certificate, investment certificate, certificate of indebtedness, or other similar name, or a check or a draft drawn against a deposit account and certified by the bank or having or savings association, or a letter of credit or a traveler's check on which the bank or the savings association is primarily liable, provided that without limiting the generality of the term money or its equivalent, any such account or instrument must be regarded as evidence in the receipt of the equivalent of money when credited or issued in exchange for checks or drafts, or for a promissory note upon which the person obtaining such credit or instrument is primarily or secondarily liable, or for a charge against a deposit account, or in settlement of checks, drafts, or other instruments forwarded to such bank or savings association for collection. So it's talking about pretty much, everything. How people been saying they've been sending stuff to the bank and the bank don't accept it, and the bank said they don't accept these transactions. Well, everything in the law says that they does accept these transactions, and they have to, but certain things you're doing maybe not be certain might not be right as far as how you're approaching certain things. But the key thing is that you understand that a deposit is an unpaid balance of money. It's a balance that it hasn't been paid yet. So any record evidence in a deposit is also proof of another payment of that deposit that has not been paid. So I just want you to understand, when you got evidence that you bought something or anything, you also got evidence of an amount that has not been paid. It's a double transaction. So deposit account record means account ledger, signature card, certificate of deposit, passbook, corporate resolution authorizing accounts in possession of an insured depository institution, and other books and records of an insured depository institution, including records maintained by the comptroller, which relate to an insured depository institution. Deposit keep taking functions, but does not mean the account statement. Deposit slip, items deposited are canceled checks. And then it says the FDIC insurance. Corporation means FDIC, independent activity, a corporation, partnership, unincorporated association shall be deemed to be engaged in independent activity if the entity is operated primarily for the purpose other than to increase a deposit insurance, right? In which we know that all our activities is for personal, family, and household use. All right, so an insured branch means a branch of a foreign bank. Any deposit in which are insured in accordance with the provisions of the Act. And an insured deposit has the same meaning as provided under 3M1 of the Act. And then it gives us the part. So we're going to go look at that, right? All right, so in any case of any deposit in a branch of a foreign bank, the term insured deposit means an insured deposit as defined in paragraph 1 of the subsection, which is payable in the United States to 1, an individual who is a citizen or resident of the United States. 2, a partnership, corporation, trust, or other legal cognizable entity created under the laws of the United States or any state and having its principal place of business within the United States or any state, or an individual, partnership, corporation, trust, or any legal cognizable entity which is determined by the board of directors in accordance with the regulations to have business or financial relationships in the United States, as to make the insurance of such deposit consistent with the purpose of this chapter. So pretty much damn near everything we have for, like, every business you have, all those deposits, all those accounts are insured accounts up to a certain amount, depending on whether they're joint or single accounts. And your ownership, what determines the interest of the account is the ownership level. So if you're just a owner that's on record, but nobody has stepped forward and claimed, see, it's all about claiming ownership and being able to understand what you need to be claiming. All right, so they have a certain criteria that the board prescribes, right, by regulations as necessary or appropriate in judgment to carry out the purposes of this chapter. So it's certain things that you must do in order for, to be within accordance of what they require. And the only way you would know these things is not by taking guesses or saying, oh yeah, it's just because I read a book. It's by actually going in the laws and finding the stuff that basically solidifies everything that you're trying to do, something that's telling you directly that this is what you're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Instead of just guessing stuff all the time. We got too many people trying to guess stuff instead of actually have written laws where they can actually So, okay, well, according to, and this coming straight from the federal government, or you can go directly to any one of their websites and get the same information. All right, so uninsured deposit is the term uninsured deposit means an amount of money of any deposit of any depositor at any insured depository institution. See, the key thing is for us to not receive insurance or not truly understand what we supposed to, what that means when they say you got 0.1% coverage or insurance that they pay you, when in fact, according to federal law, they supposed to give you dollar for dollar, right? So you have to actually know where this information is at, right? To go in here to be able to hold them accountable. Preferred deposit, the term preferred deposit means deposits of any public unit at an insured institution, which are secured or collateralized as required under state law. So that's what you have is preferred deposit, right? Because your stock is preferred stock. All right, transfer deposit. A transfer deposit means a deposit in a new bank or other insured depository institution made available to a depositor by a corporation as payment of an insured deposit of such depositor in a closed bank and assumed by such new bank or other insured depository institution. All right, so it's talking about transfer between two different types of bank, and it's talking about one bank being a closed bank and being able to receive the payment from a new bank, which is something I ain't never, really even tripped off that to just now that it said that. All right, domestic branch. The term domestic branch includes any branch, office, branch agency, additional office, or any branch place of business located in any state of the United States or in any territory of the United States, Puerto Rico, Guam, Americans, Samoa, and trust territory of the Pacific Islands or the Virgin Islands at which deposits are received and checks are paid or money is lent. The term domestic branch does not include an automated teller machine or a remote service unit. The term foreign branch means any office or place of business located outside of the United States is territory. So like you are a foreign branch, you got to understand that, the consumer, where you're located, where you're doing your place of business is not within the District of Columbia, right? That's why if like somebody from the state or like a child protective services or anybody come on your property, if they don't have a court order, you can pretty much tell them to get the hell off your property. And that's for the simple fact you're not public. You see what I'm saying? You're private. You got to have a right to privacy, but we somehow forgot about our rights of privacy and we keep thinking we're public, but really we foreign to the state. You see what I'm saying? And most people got to keep that in mind. And anytime you're doing business and everything, it really affects the concepts and the way you should see things when you understand that you're foreign to the state. All right. A trust fund, the term trust fund means any fund held by an insured depository institution in a fiduciary capacity and includes without being limited to funds held as trustee, executor, administrator, guardian, or. All right, so this right here is let me see, because it's a lot of information and I don't want to actually go through it, but y'all gonna actually have to go in here and read all of this stuff on your own, because like I said, if I took all the time to actually go through everything and break it all down and go through it, then I would never even get to, the other stuff that I need to cover as far as dealing with the debits and credit cards. But you do have to understand insurance, right? Which is very, very vital, because most people will be like, well, how can I do this? How can I just do that if I ain't got no money? Like, how can I? And you don't understand promissory notes. You don't understand that you are issuing promissory notes and you have a right to be credited for the notes. I don't care who you issue a note to. If you know you issued a note, then you need to be claiming that they pay you for the note. How could anybody make you pay them on a note independent of them paying you for the note that you issue first? And it's like, it's like, duh, like, it's like, when are we gonna wake up and realize, like, it's just really that simple for you to fix any situation that you're going through, and understanding that your bank account is an insured bank. Your account should be insured, meaning it should be already covered. If you're not able to use the account, if you do an EFT and they say insufficient funds, you got to be able to dispute that. You got to be able to step forward with the right knowledge and information to be able to validate that what they're doing is incorrect, and show them that, hey, this is where your error is, this is what you need to fix. Let me remind you of something, that on this date, what actually took place, so you can understand where you stand in between the agreement before you breach something that I'm entitled to. Then I have to take you to court. Now, we can just settle these things if I could just provide you with the correct information to show you where you made an incorrect thing, and maybe you can just fix that, because I know you really want to have a true good relationship with the principal, and I also want to have a good relationship with the bank. So it's imperative that both parties, like, you have to have the knowledge, the competency to know what you're doing. You can't just be saying, I want to try to make a payment. Like when you're dealing with your debit card, like, most people don't get what the debit cards are. The debit cards are electronic fund transfers device. That's what they front. Like, when you're reading the EFT Act, I tell a lot of people when they go into the Act, they don't never really get into the Act like they should, because it talks about the debit card. And I'm gonna take you in there and show you some things where they show you in the EFT about that debit card, right? Now, let me get down here, right? So I want to show you a couple of more things before I leave this, right? So we already know what an insured depository institution is. So now y'all got to really hold these institutions accountable. Y'all think about it. They insured, yo. Your account is insured. So you got to hold these people accountable, but you got to have the right knowledge. You can't just walk in the front door and be trying to talk to anybody behind the counter. No, you got to be able to have enough knowledge to say, you know what, I need to send this to a director, board, somebody on the board. I need to hold some man or some woman that got some kind of power for this corporation accountable, you know, and then I need to know, make sure that my procedures as far as my enforcement is correct, because most banks have a registered agent. You got to make sure you serving the right person. We serving the CFO and the CEO at the main location, but that ain't where they require for you to serve process. They say they have a whole nother institution that receives their mail when it comes to legal process, but we serve in the bank. So then when you don't get no response, or they don't respond, you be sitting up there looking like, man, it ain't, because we didn't follow the proper procedures. We didn't know all the correct formalities in which we were supposed to follow or check first before we actually start trying to serve somebody. So before you even start serving, you got to know all the rules and the regulations as to who needs to be served. And when well, wait a minute, but let me make sure that he doesn't have an agent before I actually serve him. You see what I'm saying? Like, these are things that must be known, must be done in the act of you doing anything that you have to do. I don't care if it's a rescission, if it's a whatever it is. I don't care what it is. You have to really understand what you're doing. Now, I just wanted to throw that in there because that's something that really needs to be, people need to really be mindful of. Now, interest is something that I really try to wake everybody up to, is interest. A lot of people was not teaching about interest and what interest was and how interest works. So I come in, I want everybody to understand what interest represents and why your interest is important, and your ability to act on your interest, right? Your interest, right? Your interest is your right to act on what's yours, your what's rightfully yours. That's my interest, man. This is my right to do what I'm doing, right? So interest with respects to a deposit means any payment to or for the account of any depositor as compensation for the use of funds constituting a deposit. A bank absorption of expenses incident to providing a normal banking function, or is forbearance from charging a fee in connection with such a service is not considered a payment of interest. So man, what I'm showing you is priceless. Like, it's pretty much telling you they supposed to be paying you for you using the bank account. Like, don't you want to get paid? Like, really though, don't you want them to pay you? It say right here that whenever they make you pay for a service or something, that's not considered interest. Interest is when you receive a benefit. So I don't care what it is. If it's any charge, it should be payable to me. I should always reap the benefit from the charge. If I have to pay the charge, that's not interest, and that's any account. I want you to read I'm gonna read this one more time, and then I want you to think of every account you got. Every account. You know what I'm saying? Every account, because every account we're dealing with debits and credits on every account. And once you start understanding what I'm really trying to show you in a bigger sense, instead of just debit and credit card, you understand what I'm showing you, right? Now, interest, we're going to read it again with respects to a deposit. Now, we're dealing with debits and credits. We're dealing with debits and credits. Now, when you think of debit card, credit card, you can't just think of in the sense of just cards, so to speak, but more or less like agreements or something that allows you a right to something, to receive a certain value of something, whether it's a whatever kind of agreement, card or whatever it is, device, however you want to see it. So let's read it again. Interest with respects to a deposit, when we're talking about a deposit, means any payment to or for the account of any depositor. So whenever you make a deposit, anytime you receive a payment to that account for that deposit or a payment for that deposit to your account as compensation for the use of funds constituting a deposit, that's when you've actually received compensation. That's when your account, when you know, this is what you're supposed to be. This is the key. This is what we're trying to get the bank to actually do what it's supposed to do. But first, you got to know what the rules are in order to, and then you can use that debit card the way you want to use it for any type of transaction. All right. Insured depository is, let me see. So a bank absorption of expenses include an incident to providing a normal banking function or is forbearance from charging a fee in connection with such a service. So whenever the bank provides you any service, whether it's an EFT, whether it's an ACH transfer, whether, I don't care what kind of service it is, they're not supposed to charge you for that, right? Right? They ain't not supposed to charge it. It is considered a payment of interest. It is not considered a payment interest. If they ever charge you a fee, it's not considered a payment of interest. So that always goes against you. You should always receive your rights to interest. See, and then in this, it says that a natural person means a human being. So it's being specific. All right, so non-contingent trust interest means a trust interest comparable of determination without evaluation of contingencies, except for those covered by present worth tables of rules of calculation for their use set forth, and then it gives you the state tax regulations and things like that, right? And then it talks about the sole proprietorship. I'm gonna try to skip through it a little bit, right? And tell you what that is, and then the standard max deposit insurance amount. So it tell you what the max amount is that they allow to, you know, to issue is pretty much is 25,000. Like, we all know that bank accounts, but if you are the issuer of everything that you have, then you issued that 25,000, and you should be able to be compensated for that. Whenever you know, if you are the one that's issuing the insurance, then you should always be compensated. Now, trust estate, it's mighty funny that it's calling it a trust estate. I want y'all to pay close attention that it's recognizing a trust estate means the determinable and beneficial interest of a beneficiary or principal in trust fund but does not include the beneficial interest of an heir or device in a decedent's estate. So it's talking about, you know, your direct interest, right? And then it talks about, I skipped past that, but then it talks about trust interest means the interest of a beneficiary in an irrevocable express trust other than an employee benefits plan, created either by a written trust instrument or by statute, but does not include any interest retained by the seller, right? So what it's saying is, it's saying that the trust interest is like any interest, whether it's irrevocable in any agreement. See, we got to understand that a trust is just an agreement. And everything we do, we create agreements with other parties to do certain things for us, which is a trust. So everything, you are the grantor of all your own trust, but if you're not recognizing the trust. So that's why I'm trying to show you, like, you know, how all this is working and things like that. So you can understand that the interest is what you're entitled to from, you know, utilizing the trust. So let me pull this other part up real quick so I can talk about this government-wide purchase card. Yeah, I go check that out because I kind of just breezed through it a little bit, but it's a lot of great information in there that I didn't even get to, you know. But I just want to expose you. So a lot of people don't even know where to even read concerning depository insurance. So I'm really showing you Jews, because that's dealing with the bank, and the bank is the source of everything. Everything you're trying to do, pretty much you can do it all through the bank. So I'm showing you the laws so you can actually go back and you go eat that up, what I just showed you, dealing with depository insurance and getting the proper understanding of how deposits work, what the bank is supposed to be paying to you. I'm showing you some fire stuff that a lot of people will charge you thousands to even know, for real, because they realize the importance of the information and your ability to have it, to actually learn it, you know. And then you'll understand like why you can do certain things with your debit card and things like that once you understand about your account being insured already and your rights to have certain things done. All right. Let me pull it up. 1026. All right. So we're reading from 12 CFR, part 1026. This is Regulation Z. Talking about limitations, talking about cards, debit, credit card limitations, percentages, things like that. So, like I say though, this is a lot of information. You got to really study, man. It ain't something that you're gonna just breeze through. You got to really go back through this stuff that I'm showing you. You're gonna have to read, because I'm gonna skip a lot of stuff just to get, you know, to the most important parts of this. All right, so except as provided in paragraph 2 of this section, the total amount of fees a consumer is required to pay with respects to a credit card account under an open end, not home secured consumer credit planning during the first year after the account opening must not exceed 25% of the credit limit in effect when the account is open. So you can't exceed 25% of what the account was worth in credit at the time it was open. For the purposes of this paragraph, an account is considered open no earlier than the date on which the account may first be used by the consumer to engage in a transaction. So from the date that the account is open, from the first time you able to use the account, right? Now, these are rules that a lot of people don't even know, but you got to know these rules, right? In order for you to understand how your card works. So let's read this, right? So the 25% limit in 1026.52A1 applies to fees that the card issuer charges to an account, as well as to fees that the card issuer requires the consumer to pay with respects to an account through other means, such as through a payment from the consumer's asset account, including a prepaid account, as defined in 1026.61 to the card issuer, or from another credit account provided by the card issuer, for example. And then it gives you an example. A lot of people don't even know about the sub account. They don't even know about the Social Security account being connected to your bank account as a sub account, which you can do like what they call overdraft. So when you're overdrafting, that's actually what you're doing. You're actually drawing on your credit account and they charge you for it because it's connected as an extent. So there's certain things that can be done, but people don't know about it. They just keep getting charged, not really understanding what's actually happening. So you gotta actually kind of like know what's going on. All right. Assume that under the terms of a credit card account, a consumer is required to pay $120 in fees for insurance or availability of credit at account opening. The consumer is required to pay a cash advance fee that is equal to 5% of the cash advance and a late payment fee of $15 if the required minimum periodic payment is not received by the payment due date, which is 25 25th of, which is the 25th of the month at the cost opening on January the 1st of the year one. The credit limit for the account is 500. Section 1026.52.A1 permits the card issuer to charge the account to the account the 120 in fees for the insurance or availability of credit at the account opening on February the 1st of the year one. The consumer uses the card account for a $100 cash advance. Section 1026.52A1 permits the card issuer to charge a $5 cash advance fee to the account on March 26th of the year one. The card issuer has not received the consumer required minimum periodic payment. And then it says, so it's talking about how it's talking about charging the debit card. All right, it's a difference in charging the card versus like doing just a regular transfer or electronic transfer. See, it's talking about charging, and you allowing somebody else to charge your card. All right, which is a different type of transaction. Let me go down. Let me go down past this real quick because it's a lot to read, y'all. So I don't want to try increasing the credit limit. Like I said, I got to go around all of this just to get to the main stuff. And all this is dealing with the card. Everything is dealing with the card. Yeah. All right, so everything, we're on the government website now. So where we at is we're dealing with the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. But we're gonna deal with let's see. This ain't the right part. Let me see, 65. Oh, I read it from what I want to. All right. All right, here we go. All right, so this is what I was looking for. This is 1, I need to be at 2. This is 1. 1 is just dealing with the definitions and everything. But it's a lot of information in here. This is actually where the sauce is at right here. When you come on this website and you come here, this is where it's at 51.1. Let me see, 0.2. All right, so this is what I was looking for. And there's a lot of information on this website. Like I've learned so much from coming here. That's how I learned how to do so much stuff, just by reading on this website. So this is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And this one right here is dealing with limitations on fees, right? It's dealing with accounts, like when you opening up in the credit accounts and things like that. So like I said, I'm gonna skip down some, like I said, because it's for the sake of time. So right here is where it started coming in, where you deal with the requirements for over the limit transactions. All right, so the definitions for the purposes of this section, the term over the limit transaction means any extension of credit by a card issuer to complete a transaction that causes a consumer credit card account balance to exceed the credit limit, right? Opt-in requirements. General, a card issuer shall not assess a fee or a charge on the consumer credit card account under open-end, not home secured consumer credit plan for an over the limit transaction unless the card issuer, 1, provides the consumer with an oral, written, or electronic notice segregated from all of the other information describing the consumer's rights to affirmly consent or opt in to the card issuer's payment of and over the limit transaction. Provide a reasonable opportunity for the consumer to affirmly consent or opt in the card issuer's payment over the limit transaction. Provide the consumer with confirmation that of the consumer's consent in writing, or if the consumer agrees electronically, or provide the consumer with notice in writing of the rights to revoke that consent following the assessment of the over the limit fee or charge. Completion of an over the limit transaction without the consumer's consent, notwithstanding the absence of the consumer affirmative consent under paragraph B1 of this section, the card issuer may pay an over the limit transaction on the consumer account, provided that the card issuer does not impose a fee or a charge on the account for paying that over the limit transaction. So, you know, and Chase is good at that too, where you can actually set it up to where, you know, you can agree to where they'll overdraft or pay any amount or whatever. You just got to know how to repay back the loan or whatever, you know what I'm saying, if that be the case. All right. So it says method of election. A card issuer may permit a consumer to consent to the card issuer payment of an over the limit transaction in writing, orally, or electronically at the card issuer's option. The card issuer must also permit the consumer to revoke his or her consent using the same methods available to the consumer for providing consent. Time and placement of notices, initial notice, general. The notice required by paragraph B1 of this section shall be provided prior to the assessment of any over the limit or charge on the consumer's account. Oral or electronic consent if the consumer consents to the card issuer's payment of an over the limit transaction by oral or electronic means. The card issuer must provide the notice required by paragraph B1 of this section immediately prior to obtaining the consent. Now, the confirmation of the opt-in, so they gotta, you know, it's just basically talking about, you know, you can actually set it up to where you can allow them to allow your account to overdraft if that's what you want. Most people don't do it because they don't know how to pay back these loans with a simple promise. You know what I'm saying? A promise to pay back the loan. It's something that simple. It's so hard for some people, and I get it. You know, when it's that hard, then it keeps you from being able to have certain benefits and things that you're entitled to, because let me see. All right, so this is the internet part dealing with the posting of credit card agreements and things like that, but I don't want to go past this. Like, this is a lot of good information, but I ain't gonna read it because it ain't got nothing to do with what I'm trying to show you. Well, it does, but it doesn't. All right, because all agreements are card holder agreements, because you're holding a credit card whether you know it or not. You just ain't looking at it as a credit card. So the government-wide card that everybody uses is known as it's known as a purchase card, right? So it's the electronic funds transfer device that everybody uses. So in the United States EFT worldwide purchase card. All right, so they even got like what they call they even got a program for it, right? A purchase program for like the purchase card. All right, but United States EFT Act.
According to Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, the Electronic Fund Transfer Act of 1978 is intended to protect individual consumers and.
All right, so this act was created for the consumers, right? To protect you from, you know, all the unlawful practices and stuff against everything, but it goes along with depository insurance. So a lot of people never really took time to really read the EFT Act. Well, we're going to go over a few things real quick, right? In the definitions, it says that the term accepted credit card or other means of access. So this is how you access the account, okay, is with the card, all right? Now, most people don't understand that because they never read the act. The term accepted credit card or other means of asset means a card, a code, or other means of access to a consumer account for the purposes of initiating electronic funds transfers. All right, when the person to whom such card or other means of access was issued has requested and received and has signed or used or authorized another to use such card or other means of access for the purposes of transferring money between accounts or obtaining money, property, or other labor or services. So that's the whole purpose in you having the card, is to authorize other people to use it or to acquire labor, property, or other services with the card. Now, the term account means a demand deposit. See, your account, you're supposed to demand payment against it, right? Or a savings deposit or other asset account, right? Any account that can hold documents, checks, drafts, money orders, that's an asset account, or other than an occasional or an incidental credit balance and an open-end credit plan as defined in section 103 of this act. So your bank account is more than just something that just hold money in it, you know, like your what they call it, your Cash App and all these other accounts that you got, these depository accounts that you got, right? It says it's described in Regulation B, established primarily for personal, family, or household purposes, right? But such term does not include an account held by a financial institution pursuant to a bona fide trust agreement. So, all right, so this demand account that it's talking about is talking about an account that's created for somebody's household benefit, right? Now, as the board is the board of the governors of the Federal Reserve, and the term bureau is the Bureau of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, right? Which is also in connection with, if you notice how they connected with the board of the Federal Reserve, they like connected. All right, so the business day means the day on which the officer of the consumer financial institution involved in the electronic funds transfer are open to the public. So whenever the bank is open to the public, right, for carrying on substantially all of his business, right? Whenever I can do transfers or whatever. Now, the consumer means a natural person. Now, a natural person is talking about a natural corporation. Don't get it twisted. The term electronic funds transfer means any transfer of funds other than a transaction originated by check or draft. So when they tell you insufficient funds, you got to bust them upside the head. Wait a minute. According to the EFT Act, an electronic funds transfer, an EFT isn't a transaction that is not involving any type of check or draft, right? Or similar paper instrument, which is initiated through an electronic terminal, phone, telephonic instrument, or computer or magnetic tape, so as to order, instruct, or authorize a financial institution to debit or credit. It didn't say withdraw shit. So I want you to get it. To debit or credit. So whenever you're using your debit card, remember, when you're doing an EFT, when they charging you to do the remember that it has nothing to do with withdrawal. You can withdraw on your own. I don't want you to get these type of transactions mixed up. Anytime you're doing an EFT and you're authorizing a third party to do the transaction, it's either a debit or it's going to be a credit to that account. Get that understood. Such terms include direct deposit or withdrawals of funds and transfers initiated by telephone, such terms do not include. So you have to make sure you specify, because you don't want them to do a withdrawal of funds out of your account and mistake your EFT for something else that it wasn't. All right. Such terms do not include any check, guarantee, or authorization service which does not directly result to a debit or a credit to the consumer's account. Any transfer of funds other than those processed by automated clearinghouse made by a financial institution on behalf of consumer by means of a service that the funds held at either a Federal Reserve Bank or other depository institution, and which is not designated primarily to transfer funds on behalf of the consumer. Any transaction any transaction, the primary purpose of which is the purchase of sales of securities or commodities through a broker, registered or regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, and any automatic transfer from a savings account to a demand deposit account pursuant to an agreement between the consumer and the financial institution for the purposes of covering an overdraft or maintaining an agreed upon minimum balance in the consumer's demand deposit account, or any transfer of funds which is initiated by telephone conversation between the consumer and an officer or employee of a financial institution which is not pursuant to the percentage plan and under which periodic or reoccurring transfers are not contemplated as determined in the regulations of the Bureau. And the term electronic terminal means an electronic device other than a telephone operated by a consumer through a consumer, through which a consumer may initiate electronic funds transfer. Such term includes but not limited to the point of sale terminal, automated teller machine, and a cash dispensing machine. So a EFT, like most people don't get it. Like when you're doing an EFT, you should be able to just call like any third party on the phone, say if it's T-Mobile, say if it's your gas company, or if it's your water company. You should be able to call them up and you should be able to say, hey, I would like to make a one-time electronic funds transfer against my checkings or my savings account, right? You can either tell them to use your checkings or your savings account number and do the electronic funds transfer, or you can just tell them you want to use your debit card and do an electronic funds transfer. Either which way, it works, right? Now, of course, that's why I'm showing you the depository insurance and all of that, because you want to make sure that, you know, anything the bank owes you, that it's actually taking care of what it's supposed to be doing. You got to make sure the bank does that. So right here is dealing with like just more definitions, you know, and things like that. Okay. Trying to save us from having to read all this other stuff that's not, because there's a lot of information in here and I don't want to be reading stuff that ain't. Well, it's part of how the cards, like dealing with the machines and stuff, but I'm just trying to show you the stuff like dealing with how to use your card, right? Now, documentation of transfer, availability of written documentation to consumers, content for each electronic funds transfer initiated by a consumer from an electronic terminal. The financial institution holding such consumer accounts shall directly or indirectly at the time the transfer is initiated make available to the consumer written documentation of such transfer. The documentation shall clearly set forth, to the extent applicable, the amount involved and the date the transfer is initiated, the type of transfer, right? The identity of the consumer account with the financial institution, from which or to which funds are transferred, like the person you're doing business with, the identity of the third party to whom or for whom funds are transferred, and the location or the identity of the electronic terminal involved, right? Notice to the credit to consumer. For a consumer account which is scheduled to be credited by a pre-authorized electronic funds transfer from the same payer at least once in a successive 6-day period, except where the payer provides positive notice of transfer to the consumer, the financial institution shall elect to provide promptly either positive notice to the consumer when the credit is made as scheduled, or negative notice to the consumer when the credit is not made as scheduled, in accordance with the regulations of the Bureau. The means of notice elect shall be disclosed to the consumer in accordance with Section 905, right? So when you sending your stuff in, it's telling you that they're supposed to credit it in accordance with the, if somebody sends you a statement of credit and you deposit that into the bank, then the bank has to perform whatever you gave it the right to do by, like, all you gotta do is make it payable to the bank and then tell the bank to credit that account. Now the bank is liable to make the payment. Periodic statement content. A financial institution shall provide each consumer with a periodic statement for each account of such consumer that may be accessed by means of an electronic funds transfer. So everybody that you do business with pretty much give you a statement. And the reason why they're giving it to you, because they are financial institutions. We know because we pay them every month. So if you're paying them, then you know they got to be some kind of financial institution, right? That's giving you some kind of statement for each account of such consumer that may be accessed by the means of electronic funds transfer, except as provided in subsection D and E. Such statement shall be provided at least monthly for each monthly or shorter cycle in which transactions other than electronic funds transfer shall clearly set forth, one, with regards to each electronic funds transfer during the period, the information described in subsection A, which may be provided on the accompanying document. The amount of any fee or charges assessed by the financial institution during the period for electronic funds transfer or for account maintenance. The balance in the consumer's account at the beginning of the period, that's what they always give you, what they call your previous balance. So it all adds up to what it's saying, and the close of the period. And when that balance is closed before you can actually receive it, right? And the address and telephone number to be used by the financial institution for the purposes of receiving any statement inquiries or notices of account error from the consumer. Such address and telephone number shall be preceded by a caption, direct inquiries to, or similar language indicating the address and number are to be used for such inquiries or notices. Consumer passbook account. So it's basically breaking down, you know, everything on how the accounts pretty much work. So I'm gonna go past the passbook account and other account documents as evidence in any action involving a consumer. Any documentation required by this section to be given to the consumer, which indicates that an electronic funds transfer was made to another person, shall be admissible as evidence of such transfer and shall constitute prima facie proof that the transfer was made. So if you assign the statement to the bank and make it payable to the order of the bank, and you tell them to credit the same to whoever, and then you tell them make their payment by EFT. Then the bank must actually make that payment to them by EFT because you gave them the authorization to do so, right? And you telling the bank you giving the bank your account information, so the bank know which account to do the EFT against. You see what I'm saying? And you telling the bank to make the payment by EFT, right? That's how this works. Pre-authorized transfer, pre-authorized electronic funds transfer from a consumer account may be authorized by the consumer only in writing. So all this getting on the phone and everybody keep getting on the phone. Everybody want to keep getting on the phone, walking in, trying to walk in the bank with documents. In writing, you got to put it in writing. You got to put it in writing. You got to understand what you're doing. And you got to be able to know how to authorize those transfers to be transferred and to be credited by the bank, allowing those credits to be credited to that other institution drawn against your account. Once you understand what's actually happening. So a pre-authorized electronic funds transfer. So you got to pre-authorize those transfers, right, to your account. May be authorized by the consumer only in writing, and a copy of such authorization shall be provided to the consumer when made, right? A consumer may stop payment of a pre-authorized electronic funds transfer by notifying the financial institution orally or in writing at any time up to 3 business days preceding the scheduled date of the transfer. The financial institution may require written confirmation to be provided to it within 14 days of the oral notification if, right, when the oral notification is made, the consumer is advised of such requirements and the address to which such confirmation should be sent. In the case of a pre-authorized transfer from a consumer account to the same person, which may vary in amounts, the financial institution or designated payee shall, prior to each transfer, provide reasonable evidence notice to the consumer in accordance with the regulations of the Bureau of the amount to be transferred and the scheduled date of the transfer. So it's like when you're dealing with a bank and then that bank, you giving that bank the right to transfer from your account, and it's the same bank that you're actually doing business with, right? And the notice of errors, right? You got to know what's going on in order to give notification of an error. So a notification to a financial institution of an error, if a financial institution within 6 days after having transmitted to a consumer documentation pursuant to this section 09 AC or D, or notification pursuant to section 906B receives oral written notice in which the consumer sets forth otherwise enables the financial institution to identify the name and account number of the consumer, indicates the consumer believe that the documentation or in the case of notification pursuant to 906B, the consumer account contains an error and the amount of such error, and set forth the reason for the consumer's belief where applicable that the error has occurred, right? The financial institution shall investigate the alleged error, determine whether an error has occurred, and report or mail the results of such investigation, and determine to be the determination to the consumer within 10 business days. The financial institution may require written confirmation to be provided to it within 10 business days of an oral notification of error. When the oral notification is made, the consumer is advised of such requirements and the address to which such confirmation should be sent. A financial institution which requires written confirmation in accordance with the previous sentence needs not provisional recredit a consumer account in accordance with subsection C. Not shall the financial institution be liable under subsection E if a written confirmation is not received in 10 days period referred to in the previous sentence. So whenever you know that an error has occurred, you got to, give them notification. All right. But anytime you setting up electronic funds transfers to take place, you got to actually give the bank written notice in advance, right? And when you're correcting errors, it has to be 14 days, right? So like I said, it's a lot of stuff. I'm not going to go into everything that it talks about in the errors. We're going to go to the consumer's liability. Unauthorized electronic funds transfers. A consumer shall be liable for any unauthorized electronic funds transfer involving the account of such consumer, only if the card or other means of access utilized for such transfer was an accepted card, and other means of access, and if the issuer of such card code or other means of access has provided a means whereby the user of such card code or other means of access can be identified as the person authorized to use it, such as by signature, photograph, or other fingerprint, or by electronic or mechanical confirmation. In no event, however, shall the consumer liability for an unauthorized transfer exceed the lesser of $50, or the amount of money or value of property or services obtained in such unauthorized electronic funds transfer prior to the time of the financial institution is notified of, or otherwise becomes aware of the circumstances which led to the reasonable belief that the unauthorized electronic funds transfer involved the consumer's account has been or may be affected. Notice under this paragraph is sufficient when such steps have been taken as may be reasonably required in the ordinary course of business to provide the financial institution with the pertinent information, whether or not any particular officer, employee, or agent of the financial institution does in fact receive such information. So it's just talking about the liability of anybody if your liability in reference to if somebody used the card, then your burden of proving that what you're saying is true and all that pretty much stuff you should already know, right? Now, liability of a financial institution. Action of failure to act proximately causing damages, right? Subject to subsection B and C, a financial institution shall be liable to the consumer for all damages proximately caused by. All right, so now these are all the things that the bank is liable for. The financial institution failure to make an electronic funds transfer in accordance with the terms and the conditions of an account in the correct amount or in a timely manner when properly instructed to do so by the consumer, except where the consumer account has insufficient funds. Now, let me ask you this. Why would your account have insufficient funds? If you issue currency to the bank and you have not demanded payment of the currency, that's the only way your account can be insufficient. If you've already issued a promissory note to the bank, you should never have insufficient funds. If you got insufficient funds and you issued a note to the bank, then that means you haven't claimed your rights on the note yet. So that's why they're saying insufficient funds. So that would be the only thing that would stop them from doing an EFT or any type of transfer that you authorize, is if the account has insufficient funds. So that's something that you must understand too. All right, the funds are subject to a legal process or other encumbrance restricting such transfer. See, can't have no encumbrance on your account, can't have no restrictions. Such transfer will exceed the established credit limit, and electronic terminal has insufficient cash to complete the transaction or as otherwise provided in regulations of the Bureau, right? an electronic terminal has insufficient cash to complete the transfer or as otherwise provided in the regulations of the Bureau, the financial institution failed to make an electronic funds transfer due to insufficient funds when the financial institution has failed to credit in accordance with the terms and conditions of an account a deposit of funds to the consumer account, which have been provided sufficient funds to make the transfer. Now, I should not have to explain that, but being that some people need just a little bit extra care, I'm going to explain it. And it's kind of like what I just told you. So it says the financial institution's failure to make an electronic funds transfer. So why is it, ask yourself this, why is it paying so much attention to the failure of the bank to do an electronic transfer? Now it says that anything that the consumer authorizes in writing, the bank is supposed to do it. That's what it read up top. Now let's go up to the top and we're gonna come back down real quick. I want you to get this, right? Because if you get it, you understand what I'm trying to show you, right? So right here at the top, it says the liability of a financial institution is this subsection. And at the very top, number one, it says the financial institution's failure to make an electronic funds transfer in accordance with the terms and the conditions of an account. So whenever you give them the authorization to do something on behalf of your account, I want you to get it in the correct amount or in a timely manner when properly instructed to do so by the consumer. So it's letting you know that the consumer, if the consumer say do this and he give you the correct stuff, all right, except where the consumer account has insufficient funds, right? Now let's go down here because that's an oxymoron for your account to not have funds when you just issue currency to open the account up. Now let's go down. Because Brother Isaiah, I'm gonna help you out today. We're gonna get it all straightened out for you. Get it all straightened out for you. Well, I think I passed it up. May have passed it up. Yeah. All right, so right here, number 2. Now it says the financial institution's failure to make an electronic funds transfer due to insufficient funds. All right. So whenever they tell you that they can't do it due to insufficient funds, now this is why I'm trying to tell you, like the world is yours. If you could just put your mind around what I'm showing you, boy, you can live that life. I'm trying to tell you. Now, the financial institution's failure to make an electronic funds transfer due to insufficient funds. All right, we're going to act like this part didn't exist. Now, when the financial institution failed to credit, wait a minute. So, the financial institution's failure to make an electronic funds transfer due to insufficient funds when the financial institution failed to credit that deposit. So what it's saying is, how in the hell could they say insufficient funds if you made an electronic deposit against the account and all deposits are covered by insurance? So if they fail to make the credit for the deposit that you made electronically, then who's really in error here? Is it really you in error or is it really them and that's in error? And who must have this knowledge to know to hold who accountable? Because according to what I'm reading, it's saying that the financial institution's failure to make an electronic funds transfer due to insufficient funds when the financial institution failed to credit, because they should have credited that deposit. Even if it was electronic, it was a deposit which was covered by insurance for the consumer's benefit in accordance with the terms and the conditions of the account. What kind of account is it? It's a depository insurance account. So according to the terms of the account, if I make an electronic deposit, is that covered by electronic? I believe it is. I believe it is. So when you got this type of knowledge, you can hold these people accountable for the things that they're not doing in accordance to the agreement. A lot of this stuff, y'all being able to use the debits, the credit cards and stuff like how you want to use it is all becoming your ability to understand what you're doing. and what's actually happening, and your rights to secure yourself in anything you're doing. All right. So, in accordance to the terms and the conditions of an account, it says a deposit of funds to a consumer account, right? So whenever you make a deposit, whether it's electronically or it's by paper or anything, any deposit to a consumer's account, which would have provided sufficient funds. Why would the deposit to your account provide sufficient funds? Because every debit is also a credit. So any deposit to your account, which would have provided sufficient funds. If you wrote a check to T-Mobile and they deposited that check in T-Mobile Bank against your bank account, once your bank received that deposit, they were supposed to cover it with the insurance. So how could they say return check or insufficient funds on an insured account? On an insured account, yo. On an insured account. You got to get it, yo. You got to get it. And once you get it, you'll be able to make wonders happen, right? Now, a deposit of funds to a consumer account which would have provided sufficient funds to make the transfer, and the financial institution's failure to stop payment of a pre-authorized transfer from a consumer account when instructed to do so, in accordance with the terms and the conditions of the account. So it tell you right there, if you wrote them and told them to do something, they ain't do it, yo. Yeah, you sitting up here talking about some, man, I got to figure out how to pay my mortgage. I got to write the damn bank and tell them what you want them to do. Give them all the account information and tell I want you to do an electronic funds transfer. And I want you to draw it against my checkers account, which is account number such and such, and the routing number of this bank. And I want you to pay by EFT. You can give them instructions like that. Did you know that? Oh, you didn't know that. That's what it was. You didn't know you could give them instructions. You can tell them what you want them to do. Oh, but now you know you can give the bank instructions. Yes. You tell the bank what you want it to do. All right. So the acts of gods and technical malfunctions, only the same, basically the only thing that they excuse from is if it's an act of God, and ain't nothing they can really too much do about it, you know. So now we're getting down to the card, right? All right, so insurance of cars and other means of access. Forbidden proper insurance. No person may issue a consumer any card code or other means of access to such consumer account for the purpose of initiating an electronic funds transfer other than in response to a request or an application thereof, and as a renewal of or in substitution for an accepted code card or card code or other means of access, whether issued by the initial issuer or a successor. Exceptions, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection A person may distribute to the consumer on an unsolicited basis a card code or other means of access for the use in initiating an electronic funds transfer from the such consumer's account if such card code or other means of access is not valid, right? Such distribution is accompanied by a complete disclosure in accordance with section 905 of the consumer's rights and liabilities, which will apply if such card code or other means of access is validated. All right, so let me read that again. So just in case you ain't get it. Notwithstanding the provisions of subsection A person may distribute to a consumer on an unsolicited basis a card, code, or other means of access for use in initiating the electronic funds transfer from the consumer account if such card, code, or other means of access is not validated. Such distribution is accompanied by a complete disclosure in accordance with section 905 of the consumer's rights and liability, which will apply if such card, code, or other means of access is validated. Such distribution is accompanied by a clear explanation in accordance with the regulations of the Bureau that the card code or other means of access is not validated, and now the consumer may dispose of such card, code, or other means of access if validation is not desired, and such card, code, or other means of access is validated only in response to the request or application from the consumer upon verification of the consumer's identity for the purposes of subsection B. A card, code, or other means of access is validated when it may be used to initiate an electronic funds transfer. All right. So whenever you get a code, card, or any type of access device, and you use that access device to do electronic funds transfer, then you're actually using the device what it's for, to do electronic transfers. If the system malfunctions, prevents the effectuation of the electronic funds transfer initiated by the consumer to another person, and such other person has agreed to accept payment by such means, the consumer obligation to the other person shall be suspended until the malfunction is corrected and the electronic funds transfer may be completed, unless such other person has subsequently, by written request, demanded payment by other means than electronic funds transfer. So electronic funds transfer is the prescribed method for transfers to make payment. Compulsory use of electronic transfer, right? No person may condition the extension of credit to a consumer on such repayment by means of pre-authorized electronic funds transfer, or require the consumer to establish an account for receipt of an electronic funds transfer with a particular financial institution as a condition of employment or receipt of a government benefit, right? So you can actually receive contracts and then set them up with the bank to repay those contracts by EFT to the other party, waive the rights. No writing or other agreement between the consumer and any other person may contain the provisions which constitute a waiver of any right conferred or cause of action created by this title. Nothing in this section forbids, however, any writing or other agreement which grants to a consumer a more extensive right or remedy or greater protection than contained in this title or waiver given in settlement of a dispute or action. General use, prepaid card, gift certificates, and store. All right, so this right here is where it started talking about the store cards and stuff, but I'm gonna go past some of this. Okay, give me a second. All right, so I'm gonna move from, well, I ain't gonna come back to it, but that's one section right here. It's a lot more information here that deals with, how you use the drafts and the checks, but I'm trying to save time, y'all. So that's why I'm showing you where it's at, so you can actually go in here and read this for yourself. But some people, y'all, I know some of y'all ain't gonna go read, and you're gonna miss your remedy because you're not gonna go read it, right? But I'm gonna go over this real fast before I go to the next section, right? All right, so violation respecting giving of false insurance information, failure to provide information, and failure to comply with the provisions of this subchapter. Whoever knowingly and willingly gives false or inaccurate information or fails to provide information which he is required to disclose by this title or any regulation issued thereunder, or two, otherwise fails to comply with the provisions of this title shall be fined no more than $5,000 or imprisoned no more than a year or both. Violation affecting interstate commerce or foreign commerce, right? The reason why it's interstate is when it's in the district. It's foreign whenever they're doing business with you, right? So let's go. Knowingly in a transaction affecting commerce or foreign commerce, uses or attempts to conspire to use any counterfeit, fictitious, altered, forged, lost, stolen, or fraudulently obtained debt instrument to obtain money, goods, services, or anything else of value, which with any 1 year period has a value aggregating $1,000 or more, or two, with unlawful or fraudulent intent transports or attempts to conspire to transport in interstate or foreign commerce a counterfeit, fictitious, altered, forged, lost, stolen, or fraudulently obtained debit instrument, knowing the same to be counterfeit, fictitious, altered, forged, lost, stolen, or fraudulently obtained, or with unlawful or fraudulent intent uses any instrument of interstate or foreign commerce to sell or transport counterfeit, fictitious, altered, forged, lost, or stolen, fraudulent, obtained debit instruments, knowing the same to be counterfeit, fictitious, altered, forged, lost, stolen, or fraudulently obtained, or knowingly receives, conceals, uses, or transport money, goods, or services, or anything else of value, except for tickets for interstate or foreign transportation, which A, within 1 year period has a value aggregating $1,000 or more, has moved in or part of, or with which constitutes interstate or foreign commerce, and has been obtained with a counterfeit, fictitious, altered, forged, lost, stolen, or fraudulently obtained debit instrument, or knowingly receives, conceals, or uses, sells, or transports. So these are all the foreign things, that all the things that they can do when they affecting commerce is when they accepting foreign or operating in foreign documents that are fraudulent. Now, a debt instrument as defined and used in this section means a card or a code or other device other than a check or a draft or similar paper instrument by the use of which the person may initiate an electronic funds transfer. So I want y'all to get it right. The credit cards or the documents. Everybody's so caught up on the payment coupons. But what I'm trying to show you is that the debt instrument is the credit card. That's the credit card. All right. And you can transfer it and have it paid by EFT. Administrative enforcement, enforcing agencies, right? So it gives you subject to subtitle B of the Consumer Financial Protection Act. Compliance with the requirements imposed under this title shall be enforced under Section 8 of the Federal Depository Insurance Act. That's why I was showing y'all when we first started. You got to know the Insurance Act. You got to know how deposits work. You got to know how banks work. You got to know what's going on when they're receiving deposits from you, what they're supposed to be doing. I just don't have the time to go over every detail. You're going to have to do some homework to get it all, put it all in its proper perspective. When I'm showing you where all the knowledge is at, all the information pertaining to your deposits and everything, if you can get this together, you can actually live the life that you desire to live, and you can actually do this for all your accounts. All right. Once you learn how the depository insurance works, right? So the national banks and federal savings associations and federal branches and federal agents and foreign banks, member banks and Federal Reserve System and other national branches and agencies of foreign banks. So all these are all part of the depository insurance, and they all are bound under the, Insurance Act to deal with, deposits being made into those accounts or deposits being. So you got to remember, when you making a deposit, it ain't just necessarily you writing something and sending it to your bank. Not necessarily. You can draw against your bank account just by writing and saying pay to the order and putting your bank on there and telling them to deposit that instrument against your bank, or sending them a check drawn against your bank for an instrument that you're trying to make a payment of. You see what I'm saying? And you're they're depositing all of that against your account, like on some real stuff. So once you understand that, then you understand that all those deposits are insured by depository insurance. So nobody can say insufficient funds or none of that, because everything is already covered. And once you understand that, you'll be able to object to anything that's incorrect. And that's why I'm trying to show it to you. Remittance and things like that. But I wanted to I had something else I wanted to show y'all dealing with the credit cards and stuff like that. We'll have to actually find it. Really dig for it and find it, because I was looking for it, but I couldn't find it. But I think I'm gonna open up for a minute and give y'all an opportunity to ask me some questions about anything else that you feel that I haven't covered, or things you might want to know personally about the card and the credit card personally that you might want to ask me. So I'm gonna open y'all up and give y'all the opportunity to ask a few questions, but everybody, you can't ask at one time. You have to be mindful of each other. If not, then y'all ain't gonna be able to ask no questions if we ain't gonna be respectful of each other. So I'm gonna allow y'all to unmute yourselves and ask questions. Who would like to start?
Hey, Brother Isaiah. This is Shantae Savage. I just had one question with you going over the Insurance Act and the EFT. So, learning all of this, is this how we basically get the cards to be like unlimited? If we actually go through and read it and get an understanding?
Right. Well, basically, it is an unlimited card when your account is funded. See, right now, your account is not funded if the bank has not credited you for something that it owes you for, then, and you try to do an EFT or something, they're going to say insufficient funds. The only reason why they're saying that is because they still have an obligation to you that has not been claimed yet. Until you claim it, then it's going to always say insufficient. If that's what you got to first get them to pay your account.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. And the way you deal with the bank is the signature card is a promissory note. So when you go to the bank, you're making a claim that they pay you for the promissory note that you issued to them on the day you open up that account for your estate. You came in and opened up an account in the name of your principal or your individual account, and you issued a promissory note to the bank and did not receive any benefits from the note. So now you're claiming, now you letting them know, I know that y'all got a promissory note in y'all possession and I issued it. Here's a copy of the signature card showing that I issued the note to you and I'm demanding that you pay me. Right?
And this will be all in our written instructions, right?
This will be for anybody though. Whether it's anybody that you issued a note to. Don't you think you should be getting paid for your notes too? We've been issuing notes and ain't none of us ever got paid for the notes. It's time to start collecting for the note now. How they gonna collect from you on the note if you haven't collected from them for giving them the note?
So, Brother Isaiah, let me ask you this. This is Derek. So the promissory note being the signature card is issued by us, but it's defined as a promissory note by them?
No. Say that last part again.
So the signature card that we issue to them being a promissory note, is that defined as a promissory note by the bank?
Right. So it's a promise. Yes, it's a promissory note because the application that you put in that the bank gave you to you was monetized and it was sold. It can be traded. So because the bank can monetize it and trade it, then you have the right to receive benefits for it. So, but if you never claimed any benefits on it or nothing like that, then you'll never receive anything. But you got proof that you issued currency to the bank and you haven't claimed any rights on it.
Okay, so that makes sense. So, again, if I'm hearing this correctly, upon having them deposit to your account what's owed to you from the promissory note, which is basically full coverage, the only thing in between at that point, after you've corrected everything in writing, will be an act of God or.
Absolutely. There you go, brother. You got
That's
it.
That's
you
it.
got it, brother. You got it.
That's it.
You got it, brother. You got it. That's it.
Agree.
Because after that, the account is fully insured, $250,000, and that's per deposit. So that means that as long as the deposit that you make is not larger than the insurance coverage, then the bank can cover that deposit by paying the same. So, so if I got a car contract and I'm trying to draw against it, and I write a check against the car contract and send the contract and the check to the bank is supposed to cover that with insurance. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm showing that it's the principal's obligation, and then I'm drawing the check against the principal. And I'm signing off as the authorized person to make such payment on that account for the principal and providing the contract, which is the bond you see what I'm saying? So it all makes sense. And then that's why I showed you that when you tell the bank what to do, they have to do it. You're authorizing that the bank make the payment on the installment loan contract by paying to the Ford Motor Company by EFT the amounts that are due on that contract, because you have the right to instruct the bank to make the payments.
Wow. And on the same note, you have the right to instruct Ford Motor Company to make the statements deposited to the bank, payable to the bank.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Either which way, you are the one that's in control, because once you take the statement and then you say you give an order as paid to the order of your bank, and then you say and credit the same to that account that they saying that is due on, and then you provide your bank information, and then he ain't got no choice but to send that to the bank because you made it assignable to the bank. So the only way it can be paid, it has to go to the bank in which is being drawn on.
I mean, it makes too much sense. So the only question I really have left, that's the elephant in my room, is how long, when you became aware of the actual way to go about this process and doing business, how long did it take you mentally to get past that we've all
Good
brainwashed?
question. Good question, man.
Seriously, it's just really
Good question, man. Hey, look, that's a great question, man, because man, I think that's the hardest part is when you recognize that you can do all this stuff. It's like believing that you can actually do it and actually, it took me a while, right? It took me a while first to realize that it's easy as it is for you to do all the things that you can do. And then when I realized that it really was, because at first I knew a long time ago that all you had to do was sign the document and send it back. But I could never validate that, though. I never read anything that validated that. I just heard it on YouTube. But when I actually started reading and validating this stuff for myself, that's when I was able to actually start doing things, was when I was able to see the information and know that I had the right to do these things. But it took me a couple of years to actually let it all sink in for it to become real to me.
For you to remember who you really was.
Yeah, it take a little minute because you'll know you can do something and won't even do it the whole time. You still keep paying your bill the regular way, even though you know that it's another way, but because you're so conducive to what you understand, you don't want to jump outside that, just not knowing. And that part right there keeps you bound. And it took me a while to get over all that stuff, like being able to say I don't need no job and all that stuff. Like, ultimately learning that, man, understanding what was going on to the point to where I can get on the phone with any creditor and I can basically give a copy or say I got a copy of my service agreement and my jump on demand lease agreement, which are 2 promissory notes issued to T-Mobile. And I have not received any payment, and I'm hereby making a dispute against the account because you've been collecting on the note, but you have not made payment of the note, which was issued to you on blah 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 blah. Now they gotta rebut that, and they can't. They can't. You see, because I'm dealing with substance. I'm dealing with. I can prove what I'm saying is true. I can prove I issued 2 notes to you.
Yeah, because the only other factor is them being able to ID you as a real natural person.
No, see, but they already it ain't even necessarily even the fact that they IDing you as a natural person is whether or not the grantor is claiming his rights on what he granted to the other party to be paid. So basically, when I call in and disputed and demanded that all the payments made be returned and that they release the credits on the assets that's already on file. I got 2 assets already on file that I have a right to be credited for. So now I'm basically claiming my rights on those assets that the holder releases the assets and credit the account for the amounts that they received already in the form of currency and return any prior payments made toward those assets, because you should never have to pay toward an asset when you've already gave the value for it. If you signed it, then it's your value covering that asset. So if they're already holding it and your value is already on it, then you don't have to pay any damn thing. You ain't got to pay nothing. It's all, they already got your value. Now you can demand release.
It's literally your signature. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah, it's just that simple. You signed it. It became a valuable asset by your signature, which now they can accept it and open up an account with. So if you gave the value, how they gonna charge you on the same asset that you already, without your value, they wouldn't even be able to hold the asset. So if it's my value covering it, and then you're collecting on the same asset, which has already got my evidence and my value. So if I'm not competent, I keep paying toward the same asset, which is already evidence in my rights to receive the value of it because I issued it.
So all I got to say now really is Cash App donation incoming, and I'm off the floor. Thank you.
Yep, Cash App, PayPal. All you got to do is get in contact with their legal department, find out who you need to get in contact with, and let them know that, get a copy of the deposit agreement and let them know that on whatever date that account was opened up, you issued a depository agreement to them and you issued a promissory note to them in the amount of $250,000, and you're demanding payment because every deposit account is insured by FDIC. They got FDIC insurance.
But the Cash App donation is for you, Brother Isaiah. So incoming.
Yes, sir. Like, look. So I'm gonna give y'all some game, right? Woo, boy, this right here is fire.
Give it up, Isaiah.
I gotta. Man, we ain't got no time, man. We ain't got no time. But man, so we ain't got no time. I ain't got no time to go into it right now. I'm gonna give y'all a couple of jewels, all right? So whenever you're using your debit card, right? All right, it's 2 ways you can use it. All right, so when you're using the debit card, like say for instance, like at the point of sale, if you go to a dealer and they want you trying to buy a new car and they tell you they want a down payment, right? You can actually give him the right to charge your debit card. You can tell him, okay, well, whatever the amount is, I give you the right to charge that against my debit card, and tell him that you allow him to charge the card. That's how you tell them, you're giving them the right to charge your card. And when they charge your card, they always charge you a fee to charge the card. So it'd be like a $10, $5, $7 fee to charge your card. You can charge up to $29. You can charge up to $30,000 per day, right? You can charge up to $30,000. I'm gonna have to show it to you because I believe in showing people this stuff, right? So you can charge up to $30,000. So like I said, you can get on the phone with a creditor and you can tell them you want to make a payment on any account. And then you can tell them, say, they say, well, I like to make an electronic funds transfer or an EFT by charging my debit card. And they'll just ask you for your card information and charge the card. Everybody can, you can have your card charged by anybody. Anybody, if they in store. Like when I got my membership for my gym membership, when I went in, I told them I want a membership, but I told them I wanted to charge my debit card for the membership. And all they did was took my debit card information and charged me, sent me a receipt in the mail, showing that they charged against my account. And they sent me a receipt for it in the mail. So you just got to understand how that works. You can also take your debit card. You know how you use your debit card, your bank account and your account number and your bank account routing number. You can also use your debit card as the account number, along with the routing number to that bank, to the same account. And you can do an ACH that way, where it automatically draws against the bank, where the bank can't reverse it. It automatically makes the bank make the payment. It's called the ACH. You can do the same thing like at the point of sale, like at Amazon. You know how you get on Amazon and you set up your bank account? So when you set up your bank account, you're going to put your debit card number as the account number. And then you're going to put the routing number in your name. But before you start doing these type of transfers, you need to let the bank know, right? Okay. You need to make sure that the bank know, and you need to basically claim your rights, make them pay you for the damn signature card, make them credit you for the damn agreement that they hold, so they can credit your account. Now, once the account is fully credited and your interest is released on it, you can take your debit card and or you can have it set up to where you can opt in to where they do overdrafts. If your account is not set up like that, I suggest that you do it like that, because you can overdraft. You can charge your card and overdraft your account, because they ain't doing nothing but drawing against your social security number whenever they overdraft. That's your credit account covering that. So they're overdrafting to your credit account, and then for the amount, and then all you do is pay it back with a promissory note. A simple promise to pay, acknowledging the account information is your account number and everything, and saying you acknowledge the amount of negative $200, and as the authorized person, you agree and promise to pay the unpaid balance of, and sign it and all that and send it in. I'm telling you, get it notarized, send it in, and it's going to pay. I ain't telling you nothing that I haven't done. I'm telling you something that I know that works. Like a fact, you can overdraft your account and promise to pay it anytime. Anytime. Any question?
Yeah,
Yes, I have a question.
I gotta
Go ahead.
So my question real quick is just, so when you're doing this, when you're claiming the account, you're removing the bank as your fiduciary? Is that what's going on?
Well, you're not necessarily removing the bank as fiduciary. What you're actually doing is you're basically telling the bank that you deposited a check with the bank and they didn't pay you for it. And you're making a claim for payment of a check that you gave to the bank that they never gave you payment of. So you're basically just making a claim for payment.
Okay, because if I deposited $30,000 in the account and they only just credited the $30,000, I was supposed to get like 60, double that?
No.
Okay.
I'm talking about the signature card.
Right, I know about that. Okay.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. All right, you can't get that until you get payment of the signature card.
Okay.
You got to get them to pay you for the currency that they gave them for the note.
Okay,
once you get them to pay you for the note that's holding the account open, then that's when you can actually you'll start getting your interest payments, because then that means that they release the account. Right now you probably got a restriction or some kind of hold on it until you demand that it be released.
Okay, thank you. And you do it in writing.
Yeah, you do it in writing. You just make a copy. You identify all the components of the account, the day it was open, put the name of your all capital name as an estate, trust, and then you put your social security number for that trust, and then you put the address where that trust is located, and then you give them your real name, your surname, and your given name, and you give them either the same address in the province, because remember, the entity stays in the district, but you stay in the actual province, the real state. So you can use the same address without zip codes and all that to identify yourself as or give them a postal address for you to reach you. And you basically just claim your rights as the creditor or as the applicant who applied for the account for your principal. And then you basically just make any claims. You show them that you are the one that issued the application or the promissory note. You signed it. Proof is the attached document showing your signature as the issuer of the promissory note, and you're demanding that the bank pays the note in accordance to the original agreement, that they give you full credit for the receipt of the note. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
For your
And
yeah.
will we be able to get a copy of the recording for?
Oh yeah, y'all should be able to get y'all be able to get recording of this because we recording it, so you'll get it. Yeah.
Okay,
I got a question, brother.
Yes, sir.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Hey, I did a process on a debit card. I mean, not a debit card, I'm sorry, a credit card. The process was, sending the 1049V payment voucher, sent in the statement, and the voucher comes with the statement to the dealership, the corporation of the dealership. I also did one with the credit card I had. The one with the dealership went through fine. They had credit my account, but when I did it with the credit card, they closed my account. So what do I need to do in that process?
Well, you probably did something wrong. But if whatever they did, you got to write them and let them know that the account is a credit account, and that nobody has the right to basically close your account without your consent. And you just got to let them know that you never gave them any consent or anything in writing, giving them the right to do anything that affects your interest in any of your properties. Because when they close the account, that's affecting your interest. And
Right.
who the hell is they to tell you what you can't do with your own account?
Right.
So
They talking about it's something like fraud or something against the account. That's what they close.
Nah, there ain't no fraud against the account. You gotta make a copy of what you did and explain. You got to be able to explain what you're doing. So, right. And let them know where they have an error, and let them know that's against your interest for them to close the account when the account is a credit account. And you got to let them know, well, what the only purpose of you sending statements is so that the statements can be credited against the account. Every statement is a statement of credit. Like I was just showing you, a statement is used for EFT. They're only giving you the statement to see, but instead of you sending that to the bank to pay them, you sent it to them. And that's what the problem is. If you sent it to them, you got to assign it to the bank, so that the bank, anything that goes to anybody has to be payable through a bank. Only the bank can make the payment. So even if I sent the statement to T-Mobile, I'm gonna say pay to the order of the United States Treasury, or pay to the order of First Financial Bank, and credit the same to T-Mobile account number, whatever. And then I send that to T-Mobile, because the only way they can pay it, they got to send it to a bank. And then I send a check or something drawn against that statement. You got to always send a check.
Okay.
And on the check, you can just make the check. On the check, you just write, when you send the statement in, you're going to send in the statement, you're going to send in the coupon, and then you're going to send in a check. And on the check, all you're going to write on the check is going to say pay to the order. And then right on the line, you're going to write cash. It's going to say pay to the order of cash. You're going to write in the amount of cash you're paying, which is the same amount of the note. And then in the memo section, you're going to write for credit card bill, for electricity bill, for whatever kind of, bill you're trying to pay. And then you're going to sign it on the front, right? And and on the back, you're going to just sign it as the authorized rep. Now you're gonna send that to whoever you want to have it. As long as it got your signature and stuff on it, they can go cash it in.
I have a
Okay.
question.
All right.
So you just said pay to the order of cash. Can you do pay to the US Treasury, pay to T-Mobile, or pay to cash? Is it all the same?
You can do the same thing if you got a bill that's payable to your principal, or and T-Mobile is holding the account, you can make it payable to T-Mobile.
Okay.
Right.
But the whole thing is for you to understand is that the check is being drawn against the statement. Without the statement, you can't draw the check. They will not pay that check unless it got a statement with it, something that's giving insurance of the check. Without the statement, then there's no need for the check to be drawn. Do that make sense?
All right.
Yes, thank you.
So whenever you send in the check in, all you got to do is send in whenever you send, like say for instance, I want to pay, the IRS send me a bill, and then they say send back this coupon with your check. So I fill out the coupon. On my check, I just get a regular check from my bank account, and on the check I'm gonna write, it's gonna say pay to the order, and I'm gonna write bearer on there. Pay to the order of the bearer. I ain't gonna put nobody's name. I'm just gonna say pay to the order of the bearer. I'm gonna write in the amount that I want to pay. I'm gonna say what it's for. I'm gonna sign it, flip it over on the back, and sign it as the authorized rep, and send it along with the payment coupon. Because it's a bearer instrument. It ain't money taken out of the account. That instrument on its face is a bearer instrument, meaning it's payable on its face. It says pay to the order of the bearer.
So the statement is the obligation, and the obligation belongs to the Treasury.
Yeah. So you can, yep.
I had a court the other day, and everything it went beautifully. They recognized the rescission and everything, but when I got to the stand, okay, so I had to make a special appearance, so I came in late. She said, you know, why was you late? I said, I'm unfamiliar with the area. She said, well, then you get the ticket, and I said, I was just traveling through. And then she said, blah blah blah. We bonded your case to the state. But she said, but you're late. Can you pay the $50? And then I said, do you have a charger instrument that I might pay with? And she said, you can use the credit card. And that's when I messed up, because I knew I could have got the ticket, my copy of the ticket, and paid it, but I just didn't know how. So I ended up using the credit card to pay the late charge. But other than that, everything was, you know, Gucci.
Yeah, all you have to do is just make it payable to the order of the United States Treasury.
Mhm.
And then say credit the same to the court, right?
Hmm.
And then you sign off with your name and your social security number.
Mm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because it's a check. It's a check.
Mm-hmm.
It's a check, and all you got to do is just pay the check. Every instrument you get in your hand is a check. I don't care what it is, you got to treat it like a check. It's a check. Every instrument you sign, if you put in an application for a card, you just put in an application for it. You just gave them a check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I got a question here. I noticed that on the 1040V, for instance, it says pay to the United States versus pay to the order. So
you can say pay to the United States, deposit to the United States, however you want to say it. The whole thing is just to make sure that the United States receives the obligation.
Yeah. Okay. One other question. Where can we read that will give us the ammunition to justify that the signature card acts as a promissory note? Is there some language for that or regulation?
Yeah, the promissory note act.
Okay.
And you know what a promissory note is an unconditional promise or unconditional order of performance. So whenever the bank, I can tell you right now, if right now you ask me how can you prove it, you can prove it just by the fact that if that account overdraft, who they gonna come collect from? You.
Right. I comprehend this about the
So that's a
performance,
promissory note.
making a,
It's a
yeah, making
promissory
a
note.
promise to perform. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a promise of performance. It's a promissory note. And whatever value that it was valued at, that's what the note is worth.
Yo,
And where you'll get that, you'll get those matter of fact, let me show you where you'll get that knowledge from so you'll know. UCC security account. So when you go to 8501 security account, acquisition of securities, entitlement from a security intermediary. The security intermediary is the bank. All right, so it says a security account means an account to which a financial asset is or may be credited in accordance with the agreement under which the person maintaining the account undertakes to treat the person for whom the account is maintained as entitled to exercise the rights that comprise the financial asset. Except as otherwise provided in subsection D and E, a person acquires a security entitlement if the security intermediary, let's show you who this is for those that need to know who this is. The security intermediary is always going to be a clearing corporation or a person, including a bank or broker, that in the ordinary course of business maintains security accounts, right? Maintains security accounts for others and is acting in that capacity. So that's the only purpose why the bank is acting.
it's open.
Yeah, is to maintain a security account for you. That's why I'm trying to show it to you so you can know what's going on.
Do we have to do a notice of claim before we, against our bank, notice of claim before we start any of these processes?
Well, you actually shouldn't have to do any notice of claim. When you open up the bank account, you should have been able to automatically start, using the account for what it was purchased for, without the bank intervening against your rights. So you don't even know your rights affected until you actually start using the account, doing the EFTs, doing the ACH payments, and then when they don't go through, that's when you can say, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? This is a security account, blah, blah, blah. You gotta first show that an error exists. You get it?
Got it.
Can we also do this on our LLCs that we control?
All that I read over it earlier when I was going through it. It goes for the LLC, for all of that.
I have a question. If you've had this bank account, if you have several bank accounts actually with the same bank and you've had them for, let's say, 10 years, and you're just now discovering this, do you get to collect, like if you give them instruction and claim your account, all that, do you get to get any NSF fees back if you instruct them, or?
You can get your whole money.
Yeah, you're supposed to get everything back.
Everything.
Yeah, you're supposed to get everything back. But so I wanted to show you that the bank is only acting as a intermediary, a clearing corporation. All they doing is clearing items to have the items paid out for the benefit of the holder or the owner of the security account that they're maintaining. The security account, your bank account is really your security account, your social security account. Your credit account is what that bank account really is, being disguised as what's known as a bank account. All right, but if you don't understand that, you'll never know, you'll never understand what's happening. right? So the only way that the person is entitled to comprise the financial asset, it says, except as otherwise provided in subsection D and E, a person acquires a security entitlement if the security intermediary indicates by book entry that the financial asset has been credited to the person's security account. Now, how do we know it's been credited to your security account? If you call the bank and give them your social and they pull that bank account up, then it's credited to your damn account, yo. It's already there. So you got a security entitlement. That's why Brother Isaiah on here, man, trying to show it to you so you can understand you already rich. You already got money. The hell? Work for what? For what? It's ludicrous to work. You look like a fool working. When the same thing you working for, you're making, you can make them just by going open up a bank account, you can make Federal Reserve notes. So why would you work for something that you can just go sign a note and create $250,000? You can write up a note tomorrow and deposit into your bank account.
We working right.
But you working every day to get money and you can just go write up a damn note. Oh man, that's why it don't make sense for you to do none of the things that you're doing, because once you understand what the account is and how it works, you man, and you have an entitlement because it's already credited to your account. And then it says if the bank receives the asset from the person or acquires the financial asset for the person, and in either case accepts it for credit to the person's security account. So it's already been done, yo. They've already did all that. They've already accepted the financial asset. They've already acquired the asset for you. And in either case, they already accepted it for credit to your account. Now, whether or not you get credited for it, that's a whole nother thing. Now, if you can't get it after showing you this, then maybe it ain't meant for you to get it.
Facts.
It says becomes obligated under other laws, regulations, or rules to credit a financial asset to a person's security account. Now, I ain't got to tell you, man. You already know what they're supposed to be doing. You know the most important account you got right now. And now you already know what you need to do to get them to do what they're supposed to do. You got to know how to make the claims against it. All right, if a condition of subsection B has been met, a person has a security entitlement, even though the security intermediary does not itself hold it. So even if they ain't got it, if they transferred it and sold it already, you still got a security entitlement. If the security intermediary holds the financial asset for another person and the financial asset is registered in your name of or payable to the order of or specially endorsed to the other person and has not been endorsed to the security intermediary, right? Or in blank, the other person is treated as holding the financial asset directly rather than having a security entitlement. So if you take that financial asset when you open up that bank account and you make it payable to the order of the Treasury, then it's assumed and presumed the Treasury holding the security. If you say payable to the order of your estate, then your estate is holding that security. If you just endorse it in blank, then that's where your problem coming in. That's where your problem coming in at. That makes sense?
All right, I agree with you.
I missed that one.
I get what you're saying. So basically, endorse it to the corporations that's handling our accounts instead of just signing it as a dang on straw man.
Correct. Correct, brother.
You got to sign it as a corporation or all capitals.
No, you just sign it over. You know, it's in the contract already in the name of the entity. You ain't got to sign it over in the name of the entity because the contract can only go in the name of the entity. A contract could never be in the name of a natural person. For natural people, it could never be in the name of a real man or woman because natural people can't enter into a fictitious realm. Only a corporation can enter into a fictitious realm. So the contract will always be in the fictitious name, not in the real name. Everything you got is in your name in all caps. It ain't never gonna be in your real name, because your real name can't enter into a fake world, because you are real. So you can only deal with real time transactions. Y'all got any more questions for me?
I understand it now. I'm as a young 19-year-old, I just opened up a bank account recently with Navy Federal. I just file a claim and do my due diligence, what I've been learning, and get that insurance.
Yeah, if you just open up a bank account, you need to send them a copy of your birth certificate, an original, and you need to let them know you're sending that birth certificate to claim your ownership over the asset that's being held in your security account as the entitlement holder, and you're demanding that they release the security, that you be able to use it for your personal family, because you got a right to basically demand that they pay you for the security. You're the owner, you're the issuer, and you got a right to be paid.
I got it.
Yep. Remember, remember, our accounts, our Social Security accounts can only deal in currency, right? So whenever we use the account to do business, we have to accept currency for the account, right? So what you're doing is, when you receive any paper, you're receiving currency. And then once you receive that currency, right, as the one who signed so that the account can receive the currency, then you're basically demanding your rights to be paid for the currency after your account acquired. Make sense?
And Brother Isaiah, you had spoken about in your promissory note video, Form 211, application for awards, original information.
What about it?
Could you give like a scenario how it could be used? Thinking something like this, for example.
Well, I have to actually pull it up right now, and I'm getting ready to get off, so because I'm tired. But it's basically that you're talking about the Treasury form, right?
Yeah, I believe so. OB 1545, I think is what you said, 0409. Yeah, I think so. I think it's a Treasury form. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me either.
Yeah, it's just a Treasury form, and it's pretty simple. You just fill it out according to its instructions, and you attach the document to it and send it to the address they tell you to send it to.
Okay, and you could use that with the bank account as well.
Yep. I mean, you should have your Treasury Direct account open up already.
How do you do that? How do you open up a Treasury Direct account?
You go to Treasury Direct and you open up an account. I'm gonna show you real quick.
Do you have to link your actual bank account to your Treasury Direct account?
Hold up. Treasury Direct account. So you go here to your Treasury Direct, and then you log in.
Create an account.
You create you an account, log in, and you got to understand what Treasury securities are. And it's pretty much everything you're dealing in.
Okay, so you just go on here and sign up and go from there.
That's it.
Okay.
Do you have a video on Treasury securities, Brother Isaiah?
Nope.
Is there a special way you have to sign up, or just?
No, you just go on there and just fill out.
Okay.
And just sign up for it. That's all. Ain't nothing special about it.
Or
Okay.
have to have a status correction or anything for that, right?
Nah, you just gotta know, you just gotta grow into a knowledge of understanding what securities and all that stuff is, so you can understand how to use the account.
Gotcha.
And it'll be an individual account.
They got individuals, they got business accounts, so you can just set it up how you want to set it up.
And is there a difference between, regular securities like what we're talking about and treasury securities?
Yep. The duration, the time frame. Treasury securities go up to like 30 years and stuff like that. But you'll read all that on the website. It tells you about it. Like if you go to the about section, it breaks down everything, buying and redeeming, information on the website. See, I tell you all this stuff. Individuals, anyone who uses this site can learn about saving bonds and other investments available for purchase. See, you have to actually purchase these bonds through the Treasury Department. So
Can you claim someone's bonds if they're deceased? If my grandfather had a lot of bonds back in the day and still currently have bonds with my grandmother, he and my grandmother, but he's deceased. My grandmother's still here and I'm her full-time caregiver. So and I have power of attorney. Can you claim the bonds if he's not here, but she still is?
absolutely. Absolutely. All that can be claimed. Anything can be claimed.
Because she's got like 4 or 5 like Krispy
You gotta
Kreme.
be able to set it up and have
Mhm.
all the documents in place, power of attorney and all that stuff. But it can be done.
It could be done. Okay. Yeah, I got the paperwork. I just didn't know how to do it. Okay. Thank you.
So it can most definitely be done. But y'all, I think you're ready to get up out of here because I gotta take
Thank
care of-
you.
We appreciate it once again.
Blessings. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey,
Thanks,
y'all
bro.
go and read that the depository insurance when we first started, where I was at, and I was showing y'all because I didn't really go into it for real because it's a lot of information. But go and dissect that, man. I'm talking about it breaks it all the way down about the deposits, what the bank's supposed to do. That's what you wanna use.
Can you just show the document? I came in a little late, so I can just see which document it was, please.
Document.
It's
The
the
FCIC. I know, but I didn't see what it was from the beginning. I came in late, please.
Oh, CFR 330.
Brother Isaiah, when will the recording be sent out to? Or will it be in my membership?
What?
The recording, will the recording be in my membership profile or will it be emailed?
It'll be posted in the group, the one group. What's it called? The Telegram group. It'll be posted up in there.
Brother, are your consultations free or how do you go about doing
If you're a member,
consultation?
if you're a member,
Okay, I think I'm a member, but no, I'm not
I'm
a
talking
member.
about a paid member.
Oh, no, I'm not a paid member. So
I'm
how
talking
do
about a
I
paid member.
become a paid member to have a consultation with you? On the website, set it up.
I have a consultation, but you have to pay for it.
Okay, yes, I'll pay for it. No problem with paying for it. So I just want to do a one-on-one with you, learn some more stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
But
Peace
this,
and love. Is the Telegram just for members?
yeah, just for paid members.
Okay.
That's the benefit of them being members that they got. That's one of their amenities is that they can have that. But this is where I was at right here dealing with what we started off on, dealing with deposit insurance coverage. A lot of people don't even know that this even don't even know that this even exists. So this right here is definitely something you want to go read. Like I showed them earlier, it's something that you definitely want to go read and study so you can understand all these terms and basically what it's talking about when it's dealing with the interest of these accounts and everything. So you can go and read all this stuff for yourself. and get a thorough understanding of everything that's being stated in there. Because this right here is dealing with your rights to receive interest on all your accounts. So, and what the banks are bound by and why they must operate a certain way. So this is what you want to go read is all this stuff right here.
Appreciate you, brother. You and Andrea. I'll see y'all at the end of the month. Peace and love.
I have one more question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, brother.
Look, ETF, I think it's PS, the way that you set up the EFT account on the IRS website, are we to have existing accounts already? Because when I go on there, they both be like asking for you know, account numbers and round numbers that we want to use. Is there any specific way that we have to set up them accounts? Or it could just be a regular bank account?
Yeah, you just need a regular bank account.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, y'all, I'm out of here.
Peace, bro.
Peace, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
Appreciate it. Peace and love, Isaiah. Thank you for blessing me with today's word. I'm gonna drop you something.
Peace and love, brother Isaiah. Peace and love.
Peace and love, y'all.
Yes.